Hi guys, Faby Gonzalez here, your broker and realtor here in Chula Vista in San Diego. And today I want to talk to you guys about mellow roofs because a lot of people don't really understand how the mellow roofs works or what it is, right? You're buying a house and all of a sudden you get hit with the information that you have mellow roofs to pay. And it can be very low. It could be $17 a month, $10 a month, or it could be $500 a month, right? It's a big deal sometimes. So let me tell you what mellow roofs is and the benefits and why it was created, right? It's an added California tax that the district created to finance an infrastructure. So let me explain that to you. So let's say I'm gonna put, for example, here in Eastlake, when they were building all these houses here on this side of the east side of Chula Vista, there was no infrastructure here. There was no sewer, no water lines, no electrical systems coming all the way out here, right? Because all these was just vacant land and nothing had been built here before. So instead of the government coming up with the city coming up with all that money to create all that infrastructure, they decided to finance it. And instead of all the taxpayers of all the city paying for that, they decided to pass that assessment to the residents of that area that was being constructed. So for example, they built Eastlake Greens. So they said, okay, well, it's gonna cost so many $1 million, right? So we're gonna divide it into all these houses according the per square feet. So a bigger house would be paying more than the smaller house, right? So they were doing that, and then they assessed that mellow roofs to each one of those houses that sold in Eastlake Greens. And the way it's paid as a property tax. So it's included in your property taxes. You don't, even though it's a month, you can divide it by month. It's an annual thing, and you pay it with your property taxes. So you will never get a bill that says mellow roofs. But if you read your taxes, your property taxes, the invoice that you get, you'll see a breakdown and you'll see the part that it's mellow roofs. Now, besides that money being used to, you know, create all those sewer lines and everything that needs to be done, it also goes to opening new schools, because if it's a new area, there's more houses being built, we're gonna need more schools in that area, right? For all the people that are moving there. Not just the streets and the lighting, but also a school. And that money also goes to that. It goes to the landscaping, it goes to the schools, and it's not a forever thing, okay? You can actually pay it off in advance if you want. I don't understand some people that do pay it off. I don't understand why you would do that, because there's no interest on it, right? So you might as well just make your payments, because if you sell it, you're gonna sell it with the mellow roofs. You don't have to pay it in advance. Some people have done it, and you can actually do that and pay the mellow roofs in advance, but I don't see any benefit in doing that because there's no interest. It's not like you'll be saving any money by paying it in advance. So that's one thing that you can do. You can pay in advance. The other thing is that it's not a forever thing. You know, they're between 20 and 25 years. That's the mellow roofs term. It's not gonna be forever. So like Eastlake Greens, for example, here in Chula Vista, all that area of Eastlake Greens, most of them are completely done paying the mellow roofs. So that area has no mellow roofs, but maybe half of Eastlake Greens is already done with the mellow roofs. So what happens is, obviously houses in this area that have no mellow roofs, they're more desirable. So they're gonna sell a little higher now because more people are gonna want them. So the price is gonna go up because so many people put in higher offers to get that property that has no mellow roofs. I live here in Rolling Hills, and in this area, there is no mellow roofs. Because when they built these houses, all the infrastructure for this area had already been built. It was already in place. So this small area in Rolling Hills doesn't have any Mello-Roos because everything was already here when these houses were built. So obviously I wanted to move into a house that would let me live in this really nice area of East Chula Vista, but that I didn't have to pay a Mello-Roos. I'd rather use that money that I would be paying for Mello-Roos to put it towards my mortgage and pay off the house sooner. So one of the things is, usually it's very common to find that in areas that pay a Mello-Roos, the crime rate is lower. If you do a research, you will see that for some reason the crime rate is lower in most of the areas with Mello-Roos. The other thing is that the schools have higher ranking scores in the areas that pay Mello-Roos. Those are also things that you will find out when you do your research. Let me think what else I can tell you about the Mello-Roos. It's not forever, 20 to 25 years. It's very easy to find out what the Mello-Roos is. When you see a house listed in the MLS, sometimes the agents are just putting in what the house next door listed as the Mello-Roos, but they don't understand that each house has a different Mello-Roos because it depends on how many square feet it is. So you cannot just copy the Mello-Roos from the house next door and assume that this house is also paying the Mello-Roos. It's not an HOA, it's different. So always check with your lender or with your realtor to make sure they check on tax records so you know exactly what the Mello-Roos is. Don't just go by what the MLS is saying or the other agent is saying. Do your research. Any title representative will be able to check that for you, and they will tell you what the actual Mello-Roos is, and they can also tell you when it's due to be over. Okay, so you would always know, like, okay, I'm gonna be done paying the Mello-Roos this, 5 years or 4 years, but they will know that it's all in the title. So you'll be, all the tax records, you'll be able to see that. Okay, so that's what Mello-Roos is. When I moved here to Eastlake, I decided I wanted to move here. I didn't care that there was a Mello-Roos because the school district was so good and I wanted to live here. And I thought the area was very nice, the landscaping, the trails, so all that comes with the cost. And the schools being high-ranking schools, so it was I cannot afford private schools, but I could afford this really nice school here if I pay the Mello-Roos to live here, right? So think about it. If you want to also buy a new home, most of the new houses now here in California, they apply that Mello-Roos. They give you that assessment. If you're gonna buy a house, you will have a Mello-Roos for a few years. So I was just find out up here in Coastal Hills, for example, their Mello-Roos, I think it's in some areas, not all of them. There's an area when I had a listing there last time we checked, I think the Mello-Roos was $17 a year. And that's because those $17 per household are going to pay the fees to have all the hills cleaned out every so many months. So if there's a fire, it doesn't get too close to the houses. So it was only $17 a year. I was like, wow, that's nothing, right? So anyways, that's what Mello-Roos is. If you have any more questions, please feel free to give me a call. If you need to find out what the Mello-Roos is on your property, when it ends, I can also help you find that out. Okay, my name is Faby Gonzalez. My number is 619-279-7167. I'm gonna link it here below with my website. Feel free to call me anytime.